Hi, and welcome to the BNO channel for Alamo Music Center. Today we're going to be going over the differences between beginner and intermediate instruments, and why your band director is going to recommend you to get that beginner instrument. Hi, my name is Andrew King. I'm a saxophone player, been playing for about 20 years.
My name is Jason Buckingham. I've been a music educator for about 4 decades now. I'm working here at Alamo Music Center as the institutional sales manager. And today we're talking about beginner instruments and intermediate instruments and why band directors are wanting certain instruments, and hopefully we can inform your buying decisions as far as what you're getting your kids. So since I don't know anything about woodwinds because I'm a brass guy, Andrew.
Yeah, man.
As far as, well, what's the difference between a beginner saxophone, clarinet, and an intermediate horn?
So a lot of the time when you start out on these instruments and stuff, you start around these kind of brands that have been more established over the last like so many decades. Stuff like Yamaha, anything in like the Conn-Selmer family. What it really comes down to is the consistency of the instruments being sold and everything like that. And then as far as what they're made of, what kind of parts are on them. Say like the saxophone, right? If you got a beginner one, you're getting one made of a lot of strong metal. It's kind of made to take a beating from anybody, even a 6th grader and stuff like that, your kid. So making sure that your investment's safe. When you get into stuff like clarinet and flute and stuff, sometimes the body's made of other stuff. Say like the clarinet, you can get stuff made of like a composite kind of plastic material, or you can get one made of like a Grindilla wood. It really just depends on which one you get. And then flute, it has its own thing, a lot of nickel and stuff. And then when you get to that intermediate area, you're looking into a lot of like solid silver head joints and stuff like that, and then like a B-foot on the side. What about like brass? There's big differences there?
All that is real similar. Bottom line is they're meant to take a beating. A brass instrument is a way simpler mechanism than a woodwind instrument.
Yeah.
You only got 3 buttons. Mm-hmm. It's just tubes. But they're built of heavier metals. It's a smaller bore, so it's easier for a kid to get a sound out because there's a little bit more resistant without getting too technical. But you know, technically they're easier to play, and I'm really talking about trombones and trumpets primarily. Tubas, French horns, all the big stuff. There's similarities in that, but today I'm just talking about trumpets and trombones.
Yeah, for sure. There's like instruments on the woodwind side. A lot of time your school program is going to have a lot of these bigger instruments. They end up going up there by like $5,000, almost $10,000 and stuff like that. So like bass clarinets, bari saxes, even tenor saxes at times.
Tubas, euphoniums.
Yeah, man. And so we're kind of looking at the ones that your program is probably going to make the parent look at, like as far as like a rental program or purchasing and stuff like that.
Right.
As far as like brass goes and stuff, what are some brands that the school band director will probably recommend to them?
Well, you named a couple of them. Yamaha, Conn-Selmer, Jupiter is out there. Antigua is an instrument that's starting to get more and more traction. The one thing that you don't want to do, not to cast aspersions, but you want to be real careful of stuff you see online on like, there's a website that starts with an A that you kind of want to watch out for when you're buying beginner stuff. There's a big box store chain that starts with a W that you want to kind of watch out for, because some of that stuff is really substandard, and some of this stuff that they actually make the horns with, it's like lead solder, which is the last thing you want your kid to be putting up to their face.
Yeah,
because it's lead.
Yeah, no, for sure. And a lot of the time, even like on the woodwind side, you get a lot of these parts, like really tiny parts. Like on a saxophone, it's just made of tons of different keys and stuff. And unfortunately, another aspect of this is like on the repair side. When they put out these instruments and stuff like that, they're on kind of on the lower end. Say you find a saxophone online at the letter A, right? It's like $300. It sounds like a really good deal. Even might be the color purple, which is your kid's favorite color, right? What ends up happening is they'll sell those instruments and everything, and basically they don't make the parts for them. So say the kid hits the instrument on accident on the stand or something like that, and turns out, oh, now we have to take it to the shop. It's made of a weaker metal. The repair tech's going to probably be like, we can't work on it.
Right. Well, that gets into the predictability factor. I think that's why, I know that's why most band directors are going to suggest, the standard big 3, big 4 instruments, because they're predictable. They know what they're going to sound like. They know what their pitch tendencies are, and you can fix them.
Yeah.
The part thing is really a pretty big deal, because if you get something that you can't fix, you can't fix it.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's why like a lot of band directors and stuff like that, say you're starting out on clarinet, sometimes they're going to ask you to go ahead and switch to the intermediate clarinet made of wood instead of the composite at the beginning. Just need a standard of sound and everything like that. And there's stuff about like mouthpieces and stuff as well, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah, mouthpieces, that's a whole different kettle of fish that you can do hours on just mouthpieces. I'm assuming with the mechanisms, like on a saxophone, are the springs heavier or lighter?
Yeah, so basically how, like, say on like the saxophone, when you switch from a beginner model to say an intermediate model, what they do is they kind of take the body from the beginner model, which kind of made more take that beating. It's made of a lot more nickel, heavy metal and stuff like that, less like silver, gold, and all that fun stuff. And they put these professional grade springs and keys and stuff, and what they do is they basically move a lot faster. So a lot of time when you're playing really fast and stuff, especially more advanced pieces, you're having to move your fingers really a lot. And on those beginner models, you kind of have to push them yourself. But when you're on these intermediate to pro models and stuff like that, it kind of moves with you. So stuff like the YAS 480, the Selmer 411, those are really good models, really good brands and stuff like that that are really good for starting out and great. But I do recommend starting on the beginner model most of the time on these instruments, primarily because a lot of time these kids are going to go in the marching band later. And what ends up happening is they're going to take these really nice instruments and stuff like that, and it's going to take more of a beating. So starting up on like the beginner model and everything like that, definitely recommended. And then what a lot of kids will do is take that beginner model and everything like that, and they'll get a professional model later on and kind of switch between the two during marching season, which is like basically July to like December, and then concert season where they'll use that really nice one.
Right. Yeah. Being outside and moisture isn't good for
pretty much, man.
Pads and whatnot.
And we know that the rainy season's been moving up, so it's been a thing for these kids, man. But how about like on say like on trombone and stuff like that? What kind of stuff do you expect out of like an intermediate one?
Well, the biggest difference, at least construction-wise, is with intermediate horns. There's going to be some parts that are going to be handmade and are a little bit more intricate. With a trombone, for example, you start and it's just a simple, big old slide thing. When you get into an intermediate horn, that's when you start putting an F attachment on it, a little trigger valve that assists with the low range. But those you get into little handmade pieces and parts. That you wouldn't hand a sixth grader, because that's just asking for trouble.
Right. No, absolutely. And unfortunately, like this kind of part of it where this would be good, whatever store you go to, even us and stuff like that, looking into like a maintenance plan. This is a huge investment. So those kind of parts and stuff like that, I highly recommend asking about maybe like a yearly maintenance plan, or if you're getting a rental, getting that included into your rental. Basically cover any kind of maintenance fees that the kid goes through and stuff like that. You can do it we recommend like 6 months to a year every time, maybe after every marching season or every concert or something like that, just in case, make sure everything's working.
Well, woodwind instruments generally are way more touchy than brass instruments, right?
Absolutely.
So getting them adjusted from time to time is
Yeah.
Probably a good idea.
Absolutely. A lot of time, especially these kids and stuff, are going to be learning how to put together and their instruments together. Even just holding the instrument by the keys and putting it together that way can cause a lot of problems over time. It's good to hold them by the tenons when you're putting them together and stuff like that, and that helps a lot. But because of those things and because of playing it over time and everything like that, definitely just bringing into it, it's basically like a checkup. Right. It's just to make sure everything's working and stuff like that, and having that maintenance plan will definitely take you far. It saves you hundreds.
And, talking about money, when it is time to buy something, it really is a good idea to start with a true beginner instrument. The cost, at least with a brass instrument, is anywhere from $600 to $1,000. And you don't know if your kiddo is going to stick with it, so you don't necessarily want to stick a lot of money into an intermediate or beyond horn if your student doesn't want to stick with it, or when it is time to move up, you haven't blown all your budget on the very first instrument.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why it's also really, that's why usually a lot of these stores and stuff like that, us as well, will have a rental program.
Right.
So you can kind of you can gauge that estimate as far as putting your time into it and everything like that, see if your kid even likes it. And then at the end of the year, what we can do for you is basically you take that credit and stuff like that and apply it to the purchase if the kid really likes it. Which honestly works out in the end for everybody.
Well, likes it and learns how to take care of it.
Yeah.
Because I know when I started, my horn was really the first valuable thing that was mine, and I was responsible for taking care of it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's one of the intangible things you learn through being in band or orchestras, learning how to take care of something. And if your young person isn't taking care of it, well, maybe this isn't the activity for them.
Exactly. And honestly, they kind of learn that from everyone around them too, because it's this huge camaraderie effort and stuff like that too. So when you're starting out, this is a great opportunity, if a kid just entering middle school and stuff like that, get to make friends and everything and learn from each other about good habits and maybe bad ones and stuff like that. But the band directors are usually good at snuffing that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
well,
sure.
and the cool thing about especially Texas is when you're first starting out, unlike where I started, I grew up in Wyoming. Mm-hmm. Band was band, everybody was in there all at once. Yeah. Here in Texas, when you're starting, you're actually, if you're a trumpet player, you're in trumpet class. So you get to learn how to take care of the trumpet. It's trumpet specific information, and it's all the way through all the instruments. So that's one thing here in Texas that makes things unique here.
Thank you, football.
Yeah.
Thanks,
football.
Thanks, football. Basically, a lot of these programs and stuff like that get these huge budgets, and that kind of bleeds into the band programs a lot of the time. So even like those trumpet classes or these low brass classes, or even saxophone classes, they'll get like master class teachers, like professional musicians from around town to come in and just teach, and they get real like life experience with those instruments and people that have been doing it for decades.
That's what I was doing before I started working here.
Yeah,
was going into multiple, primarily middle schools, but some high schools, but most of it was teaching beginners.
Yeah.
And those lessons were a lot about taking care of the instrument and just being a responsible human being with that fairly expensive chunk of metal in their hand.
Right. Yeah, and it works out too, because a lot of the time it can go into like, what I did was I did private teaching outside of schools and stuff like that. So like you can go up to any like music store and they'll kind of have a list, or your band director and stuff will have a list of like those masterclass teachers that they'll teach on the side. And that's what I did for a while. I did that for about 5 years, and that worked out really well. But yeah, you get the chance to just have one-on-one with someone who's been doing it for a long time and just learn how the instrument works and how to put it together correctly. And while your band director is going to be recommending you to get these kind of more on the pricey side compared to everything online, stuff like that, it is a good investment overall. There's totally social reasons, class reasons, like basically just to get them to do something outside the band school and stuff, at a school and everything like that. And these instruments are incredible investments overall.
When it is time for you to make your investment in a new horn, here at Alamo Music Center, I'm a former band director. We have plenty of people who have loads of experience around the scholastic thing, so we can definitely help you out and know what the band directors are looking for in terms of instruments, in terms of mouthpieces, reeds, all that kind of stuff. So having been there and done that, we can share our experience with you guys when you come into the store.
Yeah, absolutely. Come on into any of our locations. We have one over in North Main downtown. We have one on 410 and Babcock. Each of the stores are stocked full of any kind of saxophone, brass, woodwind, any kind of stuff that you're looking for, that you need for your band program. And any of us, you just call us on the phone too. We can make you recommendations over that way as well. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe to make us see what else we can do. We're just starting this channel up and everything like that. I know you guys are probably coming from like our guitar channel and maybe electronics and stuff like that. But whatever ideas you have, please let us know. We're more than happy to look through them and stuff like that. Yeah, this is going to be a long-running project. We're going to be going through a lot of other topics and stuff. So if there's something you want to look into, maybe on the orchestra side, you want to look into like violins, violas, or even if you want to look into like pro instruments or like what kind of saxophone and stuff like that, we got plenty of musicians here who are more than happy to demo stuff. But yeah, please let us know. Thank you so much.
And if you're a music educator, please chime in. Let us know if you want to call or email us with suggestions of topics. We're all ears. So thank you for watching. We'll see you at the store.